Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the ESS Pathfinder, Earth's most advanced deep space vessel, as it emerged from fold space at the edge of the Centauri arm. The ship's quantum sensors had detected something unprecedented, signs of an advanced civilization spanning thousands of star systems. After centuries of searching the cosmos, humanity had finally found what they'd been looking for, and what they'd been dreading. Multiple artificial structures detected, Captain, announced Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. Massive space stations, orbital rings, artificial worlds. It's a civilization far beyond anything we've seen before. Sarah studied the holographic display, her expression carefully neutral despite the gravity of the moment. The structures were indeed impressive. Cities suspended in space, orbital rings circling gas giants, and massive shipyards that could build vessels larger than anything Earth had ever constructed. But something about the designs caught her attention. "Run a comparative analysis on their technology," she ordered. "Focus on development patterns over time." Minutes later, the AI's assessment confirmed her suspicions. These massive structures, while grandiose, showed minimal technological evolution over centuries. They built big, but they built the same things over and over. No innovation, no adaptation, just repetition on an ever larger scale. "Captain, we're being hailed," Communications Officer Park reported. "The signal, it's not a greeting. It's a demand for immediate submission to something called the Eternal Empire." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Of course it was. Humanity had theorized about this, the possibility of finding a stagnant empire, grown comfortable in its perceived supremacy. They'd prepared for it. "Send them our first contact package," she ordered. "But activate our defense systems, quietly." The response came quickly. A bombardment of Imperial protocols and demands for Earth's immediate recognition of Imperial authority. The translation matrices worked rapidly, revealing the arrogance in their tone. They weren't used to anyone entering their space as equals. "They're scanning us," Torres reported, "attempting to penetrate our systems." "Let them try," Sarah replied. Earth's quantum encryption, developed through centuries of digital warfare, would give them something to think about. "What are they saying about our ship?" "They're confused, Captain. Our design principles don't match their understanding of technological progression. They can't properly classify our capabilities." That was exactly what Earth's Strategic Command had hoped for. Humanity had developed along a different path than the Empire, forced by their own violent history to innovate constantly. Where the Empire built for show of force, humans built for efficiency. Where they relied on size, Earth relied on sophistication. "Multiple vessels approaching," Torres announced. 3 capital ships, escort fleet. Their energy signatures are massive, but their weapon systems." He paused, double-checking his readings. "Captain, their targeting systems are operating on principles we abandoned a century ago." Sarah nodded. "Send a message to Earth Command. First Contact Protocol 7 is in effect." She turned to her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt. "This is what we prepared for. Humanity isn't here to submit to anyone's empire. We're here to change the galaxy." The Imperial ships drew closer, their golden hulls gleaming in the starlight. They were beautiful in their way, Sarah thought, like preserved relics of a bygone age. But humanity had learned long ago that beauty didn't win battles. Innovation did. Adaptation did. The drive to constantly improve did. "They're demanding we power down our systems and prepare for boarding," Park reported. "They're saying resistance would be—" He paused, looking for the right translation. "Sacrilege against the natural order." "Send them our response," Sarah ordered. "Tell them humanity acknowledges no natural order except the laws of physics, and we've gotten pretty good at working with those." As she watched the Imperial fleet approach, Sarah thought about Earth's history. Every war, every conflict, every crisis had forced humanity to adapt, to innovate, to overcome. They'd turned their violent past into a forge for advancement. Now they were about to show this empire what real progress looked like. All stations, battle stations, she commanded. Let's show them why humanity never stopped evolving. The empire was about to learn a harsh lesson about the danger of stagnation, and humanity was ready to teach it. High Admiral Vexthor of the Eternal Empire stood aboard his flagship, the Golden Dominion, his 4 eyes fixed on the holographic display of the human vessel. In his 9 centuries of service, he had never seen anything quite like it. The ship was small by Imperial standards, lacking the ornate architecture and ceremonial weaponry that marked a civilization's achievement. Instead, it was sleek, practical, almost predatory in its design. My lord, his second-in-command, Commander Ralphie, approached with visible concern. Our analysis of the human vessel is troubling. Their defensive systems operate on principles our sensors cannot fully comprehend, and their power signature. He hesitated, mandibles clicking nervously. It suggests technology far more advanced than their species' age would indicate. Vexthor dismissed the concern with a wave of his upper arm. They are children playing at warfare. The Empire was conquering stars while their ancestors were discovering fire. Deploy the subjugation protocol. The massive Imperial fleet moved into formation, their golden hulls reflecting the light of distant stars. Each ship was a city in space, housing millions, bristling with weapons that could reduce planets to ash. They had performed this ceremony thousands of times across the millennia. The display of overwhelming force that preceded the addition of another species to the Empire's fold. But something was wrong. My lord, Ralphie's voice carried an edge of panic. The human vessel. It's changing. On the display, the ESS Pathfinder's hull was shifting, panels realigning, weapon systems emerging from previously invisible ports. The energy signature they detected earlier suddenly multiplied, as if the ship had been operating at a fraction of its true potential. Impossible, Vexthor breathed. No species at their level of development could possess metamorphic technology. Sir, we're detecting multiple spatial distortions, another officer reported. Something's coming through. The void erupted with light as dozens of human vessels emerged from what the Empire's sensors registered as impossible spaces. They weren't using standard fold space technology. They were somehow creating their own temporary dimensions for transit. Full attack formation, Vexthor ordered, but his voice trembled slightly. This wasn't following any of the protocols. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to proceed. The human fleet moved with disturbing coordination, their formations fluid and unpredictable. The Empire's targeting systems, designed to track large, ceremonial battle groups, struggled to lock onto vessels that seemed to shift between states of matter. They're not using standard weapons, Ralphie reported, his voice rising in pitch. Their energy signatures are. They're weaponizing quantum uncertainty itself. The first human attack came not as a wave of destruction, but as a precise surgical strike. Beams of concentrated probability cut through the Imperial ship's shields as if they didn't exist, targeting specific systems with terrifying accuracy. They weren't trying to destroy the Imperial fleet. They were systematically disabling it. How do they know our weak points? Vexthor demanded. Those are Imperial military secrets. Sir, a young officer spoke up. They're artificial intelligence systems. They're not just processing our data. They're predicting our responses before we make them. They've turned warfare into a science we don't understand. A transmission cut through their communications, displaying Captain Chin's image on every screen of the Golden Dominion. This is your only warning, Admiral Vexthor. The Eternal Empire's policy of forced submission ends today. We're offering you a choice: adapt or become obsolete. Humanity didn't come to be conquered. We came to revolutionize. Vexthor watched in horror as his mighty fleet, the pride of the Imperial Navy, was systematically reduced to floating hulks by weapons that defied Imperial physics. These humans hadn't just developed technology. They'd fundamentally reimagined what technology could be. My lord, Ralphie whispered, what do we do? None of the ancient protocols cover this situation. For the first time in his long life, Vex Thor felt true fear. The Empire had spent millennia perfecting its methods of conquest, but they had never faced a species that had turned their own violent history into a forge for advancement. These humans hadn't grown up under the Empire's guidance. They had evolved in isolation, driven by necessity to explore paths of development the Empire had never imagined. "Send word to the Imperial capital," he ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of history. Tell them we've made a terrible mistake. The galaxy is about to change." As he watched the human fleet's precise dance of destruction, Vex Thor realized that the Empire's greatest weakness wasn't its technology or its tactics. It was its assumption that age automatically meant superiority. These humans had proven that innovation, driven by necessity, could overcome millennia of tradition in a single moment. The age of the Eternal Empire was ending. The age of humanity had begun. Dr. Maya Patel stood before the Imperial Senate's emergency session, her holographic form projected into their grand chamber. As Earth's leading expert in quantum psychology, she had been chosen to explain why the Empire's traditional methods of subjugation were failing against humanity. The sea of alien faces before her showed various degrees of confusion, anger, and fear. "You're not losing this war because of technology alone," she explained, her voice calm but firm. "You're losing because you don't understand how humanity thinks." She gestured, and a holographic simulation appeared, showing human fleet movements that seemed chaotic to Imperial eyes. "Where you see disorder, we see opportunity. Where you see tradition, we see stagnation. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons. It's our ability to imagine new possibilities." The Imperial senators muttered among themselves. One stood, his crystalline form catching the light. "But your species is young. You cannot possibly comprehend the complexities of galactic warfare." Maya smiled. "Age doesn't equal wisdom when you spend it repeating the same patterns. Humanity spent its childhood fighting itself, forcing us to constantly innovate or die. We turned our greatest weakness, our division, into our greatest strength, diversity of thought." In deep space, her words were being proven true. Captain Chen's task force had just sprung another trap on an Imperial battle fleet. The human ships seemed to appear from nowhere, their quantum ghost drives making them virtually undetectable until they chose to reveal themselves. "ARIA, status report," Sarah commanded, addressing the ship's advanced recursive intelligence array. "Imperial fleet is responding exactly as predicted," the eye replied. "Their tactical algorithms are attempting to adapt, but they're constrained by thousands of years of programmed responses. They literally cannot think outside their traditional patterns." The human fleet moved like a school of fish, each ship's AI working in perfect harmony with the others. They had turned space combat into a dance of probability and precision, using the Empire's own predictability against them. Meanwhile, in the Imperial capital, High Counselor Zexra watched the latest battle reports with growing dread. The humans weren't just winning battles, they were systematically dismantling the Empire's military doctrine. Each engagement revealed new weaknesses in Imperial strategy, weaknesses that had been hidden behind centuries of ceremonial warfare. "They're inside our decision cycle," his military advisor explained. "Their AI systems predict our responses before we make them, and their quantum technology lets them strike anywhere at will. We're fighting an enemy that doesn't play by any rules we understand." On a dozen frontier worlds, Imperial citizens were beginning to question centuries of doctrine. They watched as human ships protected trade vessels from Imperial taxation fleets. They saw human medical technology freely shared with populations the Empire had kept dependent. The humans weren't just fighting the Empire. They were showing its subjects a different way of existing. Back in the Senate chamber, Maya continued her explanation. "Your empire is built on the assumption that older means better, that tradition equals truth. Humanity knows better. We've seen empires rise and fall on Earth, We've learned that adaptation is the only tradition worth keeping. She brought up new holograms, showing human ships interfacing with Imperial technology in ways that should have been impossible. While you spent millennia perfecting one way of doing things, we spent centuries exploring every possible way. Our AIs don't just process information. They imagine new realities. Our quantum systems don't just compute. They dream. The Senate chamber erupted in chaos as reports came in from across the Empire. Human diplomatic vessels were appearing in system after system, offering alliance rather than demanding submission. Their technological innovations were being freely shared with species that the Empire had kept deliberately dependent. This isn't just a military conflict, Maya concluded. It's a clash between two fundamentally different ways of thinking. You believe in perfecting the known. We believe in exploring the unknown. In her command center on the Pathfinder, Sarah Chen received Maya's report with satisfaction. The Empire's greatest weapon had always been its aura of invincibility, its subjects' belief that Imperial ways were the only ways. Now that illusion was cracking. RIA. Analyze Imperial communications, she ordered. What's the reaction to our diplomatic initiative? Fascinating patterns emerging, Captain, the AI replied. Imperial systems are experiencing a 300% increase in questions about fundamental governance principles. The Empire's information control systems are struggling to maintain narrative cohesion. Sarah nodded. This was what Earth's strategists had predicted. The Empire had maintained control not through superior technology, but through the suppression of alternatives. Now humanity was showing the galaxy that there were always alternatives. Launch the next phase, she commanded. Let's show them what happens when you combine human imagination with AI creativity. The war for the galaxy's future wasn't being fought with just ships and weapons. It was being fought with ideas, with possibilities, with the fundamental human belief that tomorrow could always be better than today. And against that force, even an eternal empire couldn't stand unchanged. The Imperial Palace's central spire pierced the purple skies of Eternox Prime, its crystalline surfaces reflecting the light of 3 suns. But today, its usual splendor was overshadowed by the unprecedented sight above, a human diplomatic vessel, hovering in clear view of the Imperial Senate. Even more shocking was the growing crowd of Imperial citizens gathering to watch, their presence a clear violation of ancient protocols. Inside the palace's Grand Strategy Chamber, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the Imperial High Council. 3 months of strategic warfare had brought them to this moment. Behind her, a holographic display showed the current state of the Empire. Nearly a third of its systems had already aligned themselves with Earth's alternative vision of galactic society. Your empire is built on a fundamental misunderstanding, Sarah explained, her voice carrying across the chamber. You believe that stability comes from uniformity, that progress comes from perfecting the known. Humanity learned a different lesson from our history. She gestured, and the hologram shifted to show Earth's historical timeline. Every time we thought we had perfected something, someone came along and revolutionized it. Every time we thought we had reached our limits, we found new frontiers. Your empire has spent millennia trying to prevent change. We've spent centuries learning to harness it. High Counselor Zexra leaned forward, his crystalline form catching the light. And what would you have us do, human? Abandon millennia of tradition. Accept chaos in place of order. No, Sarah replied. We're offering something more challenging. Evolution. The chance to combine your experience with our innovation. To build something greater than either of us could achieve alone. On screens across the chamber, reports continued to stream in. The Human Quantum Communication Network, freely shared with Imperial worlds, was transforming society faster than anyone had predicted. Ideas spread at the speed of thought, crossing boundaries the Empire had maintained for centuries. Your eye constructs, another council member spoke, their voice trembling slightly. They're not just military tools, are they? They're teaching our people. Sarah nodded. Explain, please. The ship's AI materialized as a hologram beside her. We discovered that Imperial citizens have an innate creativity that's been suppressed by generations of structured thinking. When exposed to alternative problem-solving methods, they display remarkable adaptation capabilities. They're not learning from us. We're helping them remember how to innovate. In orbit above the capital, the human fleet maintained its defensive position. But unlike traditional military formations, each ship was also a node in a vast network, broadcasting new ideas and possibilities across Imperial space. They had turned information itself into their most powerful weapon. Look at what's already happening, Sarah continued, bringing up new holograms. They showed Imperial ships being modified with human quantum technology, Imperial cities adopting Earth's adaptive architecture principles, Imperial children learning to ask why not, instead of just why. Your empire's greatest achievement wasn't its size or its technology, she explained. It was creating a framework that could unite diverse species across thousands of worlds. We're not here to destroy that framework. We're here to help it grow. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't come to conquer the empire. They had come to transform it. And in doing so, they had revealed both its greatest weakness and its greatest potential. And if we refuse? Zexra asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Then you'll watch as system after system chooses a different path, Sarah replied. Not because we forced them, but because once people see new possibilities, they can't unsee them. Your empire's strength was stability. Humanity's strength is adaptation. Together, we could create something unprecedented. A civilization that grows stronger through change rather than resistance to it. As if to emphasize her point, new reports flashed across the chamber's screens. Imperial research institutes were already incorporating human methodologies, producing innovations that would have been considered heretical months ago. Imperial military academies were rewriting doctrines, combining centuries of experience with new tactical philosophies. The galaxy is changing, Sarah concluded. The only choice is whether you want to help guide that change or be left behind by it. In the silence that followed, ARI's sensors detected something remarkable. Quantum patterns in the council members' crystalline forms were shifting, displaying signs of neural reorganization. They weren't just considering her words, they were experiencing the very adaptation she described. Outside the palace, the crowd had grown larger, their presence a living testament to the Empire's transformation. They weren't there to worship imperial power anymore. They were there to witness the beginning of something new, a fusion of human dynamism and imperial wisdom that would reshape the galaxy. The age of the unchanging empire was over. The age of endless possibility had begun. 5 years after the first contact between humanity and the Eternal Empire, the Galactic Assembly convened for its inaugural session. The venue itself told the story of change. A space station that combined imperial grand architecture with human adaptive technology, its quantum crystalline walls shifting subtly to accommodate the needs of different species. Dr. Maya Patel stood at a window overlooking the gathered ships, marveling at how far they'd come. Imperial dreadnoughts now bore quantum drives developed through human-imperial collaboration. Human vessels had adopted imperial crystalline technology, their hulls shimmering with possibilities. But more impressive than the technological fusion was the cultural one. Quite a view, isn't it? Admiral Chen appeared beside her, now wearing the dual insignia of Earth Fleet Command and the new Galactic Cooperation Initiative. Sometimes I can hardly believe we managed to pull this off. We didn't just pull it off, Maya replied. We created something neither side could have imagined on their own. The main chamber below them was filling with representatives from across known space. Former imperial worlds sat alongside human colonies, while newly discovered civilizations joined as equals rather than subjects. The hierarchy of age had been replaced by a meritocracy of ideas. ARI, give me a status update on the integration project, Sarah requested. The AI's hologram materialized, its form now incorporating elements of both human and imperial design aesthetics. Progress exceeds all projected models. The combination of imperial experience and human innovation has accelerated technological development across all sectors. But the most significant changes are psychological. On the display screens around them, data streamed in from across the galaxy. Imperial education centers had been transformed into hubs of creative thinking. Human research facilities had incorporated imperial knowledge preservation techniques. Together, they were pushing the boundaries of what either civilization had thought possible. The latest breakthrough in quantum psychology is particularly fascinating, Maya added. We've discovered that the imperial drive for perfection and human adaptability aren't opposing forces. They're complementary aspects of consciousness itself. By combining them, we're reaching new levels of understanding. In the chamber below, High Counselor Zexra, now the first elected leader of the transformed empire, took the podium. His crystalline form had evolved, incorporating patterns that would have been considered chaotic by old imperial standards, but now represented a new kind of harmony. 5 years ago, he began, his voice carrying across the assembly, we faced what we thought was our greatest challenge. We were wrong. What we faced wasn't a challenge, it was an opportunity. Humanity didn't come to destroy the empire. They came to wake us up. The assembled representatives, a rainbow of species and civilizations, listened intently. Among them were the first graduates of the new Galactic Academy, young beings from both human and imperial worlds who had grown up with the best of both cultures. We thought we had achieved perfection, Zexra continued. But perfection, we learned, is not a destination. It's a journey. Humanity taught us that the universe is not a puzzle to be solved, but a mystery to be explored. And in return, we showed them that innovation without wisdom can be as dangerous as wisdom without innovation. Sarah smiled, remembering the tense first encounters, the battles that could have led to destruction, but instead led to transformation. We came looking for allies or enemies, she whispered to Maya. Instead, we found partners in evolution. The station's quantum sensors registered a new phenomenon. The collective consciousness of the assembly was generating patterns of possibility that neither human nor imperial scientists had predicted. They weren't just cooperating. They were creating a new way of being. The challenges ahead are greater than anything we faced, Zexra concluded. But for the first time, we faced them not as separate civilizations, but as a united galaxy. We have combined human dreams with imperial dedication, Earth's adaptability with the Empire's stability. Together, we reach for the stars not to conquer them, but to understand them. As the assembly erupted in approval, Maya turned to Sarah. You know what the most beautiful part is. This is just the beginning. Every day, someone asks a question that neither humans nor Imperials would have thought to ask before. Every day, we discover something new about ourselves and the universe. Above the station, ships from across the galaxy moved in harmony, their designs as varied as the civilizations they represented. But they all shared something new. The understanding that true strength comes not from resisting change, but from embracing it. Not from knowing all the answers, but from never stopping to ask questions. The Eternal Empire had transformed from a force of stagnation into a catalyst for growth. Humanity had evolved from a young, ambitious species into teachers and partners in galactic evolution. Together, they had created something unprecedented. A civilization that grew stronger through diversity, that found unity in adaptation, that saw change not as a threat but as an opportunity. The age of isolation was over. The age of endless evolution had begun.